It's the Bougie Podcast, proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club. What is going on, Pooge Crew? Thanks for being here for episode 102 of the Poogie Podcast. And if you're a Jaguar fan specifically, thank you for being here as we continue on with our 90407 initiative, talking Jacksonville sports and specifically Jacksonville Jaguars this episode as we continue our dive into the Jaguars roster this week, looking into the wide receiver room and the tight end room as well. Last week, episode 101, we did quarterbacks and running backs. Be sure to go check that out. And before we jump into this conversation, be sure to subscribe to our channel, like the video, share the video, comment on the video, your thoughts and opinions on everything we talk about. We want to hear what you have to say about our conversation. And if you want to jump on the show as a guest one day, feel free to reach out as well. Would love to hear your thoughts and get you on the show when available. If you're on the go, listen on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Google, whatever you listen to your podcasts on. If you're on the go and you want to watch the video elements with our lovely panel of Jaguar experts, jump on into the YouTube channel, watch us every time, and subscribe so you get notified every time that there is a new episode. But let's jump into this. I'll invite the guys in. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Luke, you look like you just came off the basketball court. What do we got going on there, man? Oh, we got Luke muted.
Gotta represent UCF and Dylan Gabriel. They all the college players can now launch their own clothing brand, get paid for it. So gotta support our home guy Gabriel down at UCF. So shout out to him. He's putting out some new stuff. Go check it out. Dedicated Greatness, DG Dylan Gabriel.
Hell yeah, let's do it. UCF, gotta love supporting those guys. Sam, Scout Leggett, you're muted right now, but how are you doing, man? You look like a swag geography teacher.
Yeah, we're going great. Like I said, training camp's going on, so just looking out for all those nice articles come out on Twitter. Getting a nice, good review of the league, see where the Jags stack up to.
Hell yeah, man. And Jacob, how are you doing coming off a nice weekend, a little bit of scrimmage action? How are you doing on this fine Wednesday morning when people are listening Tuesday evening with us recording?
Doing pretty good. I mean, I'm just hearing everything coming out of camp. We saw the scrimmage, as you said. It's game week. This is week one of the preseason, so we have something to look forward to in terms of actually seeing these guys suit up and play under the lights a little bit.
Yeah, it's exciting, right? I mean, we're coming off a year that was kind of weird. Didn't see too many people in the stands. Hell, Jacksonville never typically sees too many people in the stands. But I know there's a lot of excitement around the team right now, and it was fun to get back into the stadium for the scrimmage, and it's going to be fun to get back. Go for it.
You think? I'm glad you said that. Riddle me this. Do you think the Jags will fill the stadium more at this preseason game for the first look at Trevor Lawrence more than like most of the home games we had last year? Think about it.
Well, yes, because COVID. So
okay, skip COVID. Previous year,
2019.
I feel like we're gonna have a higher attendance just because it's Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow than some of our regular season home games.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong per se. I think the easiest way to describe it from my standpoint is this is the most excitement going into a season that we've had in a very long time. A lot of excitement before the 2018 season, coming off the 2017 miracle run into the AFC Championship. And now we have all these pieces surrounding the team with Trevor Lawrence, Tim Tebow, Shaquille Griffin, Urban Meyer, so many great pieces. The excitement's there. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the stadium is pushing the boundaries of capacity based on the excitement that's surrounding this team. DJ Leggett, Scout Leggett, what about you, man? Is this stadium about to be packed on Saturday for the first preseason game?
Bro, so have you guys seen that deal they're doing? You get every home game for like $225, and it's like a random seat in the stadium. And I think that they're just so that comes out to like $25 a game if you go to all of them. And so you can't like trade them or sell them apparently. But I think that they're doing that. They're just running that price way low. They want to get as many fans in that stadium as possible. Jags fans.
Yeah. So
you heard what Urban said a few weeks ago about packing the stadium with actual Jags fans. So that'll be a breath of fresh air for us up in Jacksonville, up in those hot stadium seats.
I mean, let's be real. Urban Meyer at Ohio State, at Florida, used to running a team inside of a packed stadium with home fans. So I'm sure he's going to want to get Jacksonville fans, the Jaguar fans, into this stadium. And hell, you can't sell those tickets. Get people to purchase them. Make sure that there's Jaguar fans in the stadium. I mean, that's sick. Like, that's a great deal. If you don't already have your tickets, you definitely got to take advantage of that. But from you guys, any other storylines that stick out before we jump into our discussion with the wide receivers and tight ends around training camp or any recent news going on right now?
Did you guys talk about CJ Henderson while I was gone?
No, we haven't touched him.
We haven't.
Yeah, we should do a quick one on CJ. Yeah, do a quick one on CJ Henderson, because apparently the coaches had to go to his house to drag him out of bed and be like, dude, are you coming to practice? Are you going to show up? So it looks like he's on the trade block. Reading that like the Saints might be interested. Their veteran corner just retired. So it's even more incentive for them to come at us. And, Michael Thomas played with the Jags. I'm sure everyone's seen that. So
Ohio State
with Urban Meyer. Sorry. So, I mean, there might be some interest from our team on that side, but yeah, let's see what we can get for CJ, honestly, because it just I know Jacob, you and Luke are some Gators fans, but I mean, I don't know. It might be time. He doesn't even want to play. It's like, I mean, that's the first step, right? You gotta have the mental side there for football. So we saw that with Telvin.
Well, they were talking about it on the way home today from work on the radio, and this doesn't seem like it's the type of thing like, oh, I don't want to play in Jacksonville. Because why do most players not want to play in Jacksonville? It's usually because the team's awful. Well, with Trevor Lawrence coming to town, things are looking up. It has yet to happen, but this is a much more positive situation. So I don't think it's about him not wanting to play for Jacksonville. And the coach is going to his house. There's been a lot of, reports all over the place, stories. We don't know exactly what's happening. This could be like mental health. This could be something like going on with him. And the way I see it is Urban Meyer comes from the college ranks. He treats his players almost like he's a father figure because he's used to getting kids straight out of high school when they leave their family. So, you could spin it either way, but are they going and checking on him? Are they trying to see if he's dealing with something that, we're going to help you through rather than drag him to camp? It's very vague. I want to hope for the best. He was at camp in pads today. We got to see if he's there 2 consecutive days, see what happens. I feel this is beyond football and beyond just your normal player diva type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, the way I look at this is, from what I'm hearing, the Jaguars want him a part of this team. They want him involved with the team. They're not, people say, oh, they're shopping CJ Henderson. Well, that's the media talking. Like, anytime there's a little bit of a rift between a player and a team, like we saw it with Jalen Ramsey, we've seen it elsewhere in the league, the media jumps to this conclusion that, okay, they're already shopping him. They're getting rid of him. From the Jaguar standpoint, if he doesn't want to play football, they can't necessarily control that. But what the Jags can do is make sure they're doing everything in their power to make him feel comfortable and want it with the organization. If he doesn't want to play football, he doesn't want to play football. How much value is he going to be to another team if that's the case? If he just doesn't want to play football anymore, maybe his goals coming out of youth football and in high school were, I just want to make it to the NFL one day. And he's reached that goal, and now it's like, okay, where do I go from here, right? The Jags go out in free agency and pick up Shaquille Griffin, one of the best corners in the league. Does he look at that as a move that maybe took a shot at his talent and his skill set? I don't know. But outside of Shaquille Griffin, now we have Sidney Jones, who played extremely well last year. We have Trey Herndon, who's been a good piece for the team. And we have CJ Henderson. Those are really the 4 spots or the 4 people. And we need CJ Henderson to step in and play. We need him to play well, too, because we need corners. We don't necessarily need wide receivers like this whole Michael Thomas debate that's going on with the trade and stuff. So I say when it comes down to it, CJ Henderson, for the sake of the Jags, it's in their best interest to try and keep him around with the team and do what they can. Jacob, you mentioned, Urban coming from the college ranks and handling situations with players. CJ Henderson's 1 year out of college. This is his 2nd year in the league. He's still dealing with that amateur issue and that rookie mentality. He got injured his rookie year. That can weigh heavily on a young player too. So is he doubting his abilities? Is he doubting his interest in football? Who knows? I mean, what do you guys say?
I was telling you this earlier. I mean, when we drafted him, it didn't look like he was that excited. Even in the season, I mean, he probably kept out of games that he could have played, saying he was injured. He probably kept those injuries longer than he could have, potentially could have came back, So I just don't think he has the excitement to play. I don't even know if it's for the Jaguars or not. And it's kind of tough because you hear all the reports like everyone's saying he's not excited to play, and that probably brings him down more. So I think it's just a mental health block that he has to get past. And it could be in the Jags' best interest just to like mitigate risk, really, because if he's not going to play and we have a chance to do something with that, then why don't we go ahead and do that?
I think the thing is I don't think it's a situation of he doesn't want to play for Jacksonville.
No, that's what I'm saying.
And
I don't think he wants to play like at all.
Who's going to want him? So it's almost going to be too difficult to trade. So we're almost going to have to keep him. And I think Urban Meyer and Charlie Strong, both of those guys, they're going to be people that, hey, we're not going to just cut you, or we're not going to just let you loose and like good luck because you're not. They try to think of, young players. We brought you here for 4 years for cause. They're those type of guys that we're going to try to help him, rather than like a Doug Marrone of the past probably would have been like, yo, if he's not going to show up, whatever, we're going to cut him because we don't have time for this. These guys aren't NFL coaches naturally, so they don't have that same mindset. I think he's going to be on the team. How effective, I don't know. Does it turn around? I hope, but I don't think it's going to be easy to trade him if he doesn't want to play.
Yeah, and let's be real. The easiest part of trading him is the fact that he's got a $4.5 million a year salary for the next 3 years, so his cap hit is not big, but that's also all the more incentive to keep him around and see if he does pan out, because if he does find that desire again to play and he does get over these mental health things, maybe he will step in and become a solid player alongside Shaquille Griffin. We have Tyson Campbell as well, Sidney Jones. So I think he's in a room full of guys. Shaquille Griffin, as we know, a very team-first player, would be more than happy to help him along. He's got Sidney Jones and Trey Herndon, who aren't necessarily major threats to stealing his job, and Tyson Campbell, who is now a rookie and has looked good, and I'm sure we'll talk more about him when we discuss defensive backs later on in August, but it's one of those things where it's worth keeping him around at the price tag because he's not worth a lot right now, but it's also reason why there might be trade value in getting rid of him. A team might look at that as a flyer if he just definitely doesn't want to be here in Jacksonville. What would you guys say? Let's get into this real quick with Michael Thomas, since that news has been brought up. Issues with Michael Thomas. Missed about, I'd say, maybe 10 weeks last year. I think he played weeks 9 through 14. Michael Thomas not happy in New Orleans. Drew Brees is gone. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. They don't have that many stud receivers. They obviously have Traquan Smith out of UCF, who's become a dominant piece in New Orleans as well. But Michael Thomas just doesn't seem happy coming off an ankle injury. If it were to be a case where the Saints were interested in CJ Henderson, Jags interested in Michael Thomas, let's go around the table starting with you, Sam. What would the value be there with that type of trade?
All right, last thing on CJ Henderson is that, it was the old regime that drafted him. So it's not like, in my opinion, Jacob, it's not like they have any, ties to him. It doesn't hurt their reputation to let him go after a year and say, look, new regime, just like the Cardinals did with the quarterback. They just said, yeah, all right, new regime, new players. This is the culture we want to instill. Do you really think they want to keep a guy around with that kind of mentality on the team, especially in the first year of the rebuild? So, I could see them trying to work with them as much as possible, but if there's not much movement on his side of things, then it wouldn't make sense to keep him around in the locker room, taking up a spot where all these guys are like, look, I thought we were, playing to win. I didn't think that, you're right. If this was Doug Marrone's team, he would be out there starting. And that's what I love about this is that, the Jags aren't going to just shove him in that spot and say, you're playing, we drafted you high, that means you're good and you're going to play. These guys are going to pick the best people to be on the field. So I don't think they have any, ties to him. And personally, he's missed all of camp now. They're trying to instill a culture. It just doesn't seem like he'll be on the Jags 53. I think they might trade him, but that's my opinion.
No, I agree.
Yeah, what's up?
I was just going to say, if this does work out, it's going to have to be him putting in the effort back. They've put in their effort. If he doesn't put it back, then
right. And you see, I don't know. I've looked at pictures of him because I want to see has he been keeping in shape in summer and stuff? Does he look like he's ready to play? And it just doesn't seem like there's been any growth on his end. I don't know. You hear about DJ Chark going through the offseason, really pushing himself. Well, this guy's just seems like he's kind of going along. So if they want to instill a culture of winning, I don't know if this would be the right decision to keep him on the team. But as far as Michael Thomas goes, I mean, that would be great. We have Marvin Jones, which the coaching staff really likes. But if you can get a stud top 5 receiver on your team to help Trevor Lawrence, then absolutely.
And so on that note, Sam, what's the value there? Is it CJ Henderson and another player? Is it some picks? What's the compensation that we would all deem, pretty fair for that type of trade, considering, let's say, both players don't want to be in their current situations? So yeah, one player might be elevated than another as far as their production in the NFL and what they've done in the NFL, but everything being equal, ceteris paribus, and the Michael Thomas doesn't want to play for the Saints and CJ Henderson doesn't want to play for the Jags. What's the compensation for this type of trade?
Well, I mean, how much? I guess the trade I'm thinking of is the DeAndre Hopkins trade, but we all know that was kind of a crappy trade. So, I mean, maybe a first-round pick if we weren't trading CJ. Like, if it was straight up, how many picks for Michael Thomas? Then maybe a first and a later-round pick. So you throw CJ in, and you're probably going to have to give CJ a pretty high pick, if not 2, like high middle round picks to get him. I don't know. What are your thoughts, though?
Jacob, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm not usually the best at kind of predicting these things because it's like CJ Henderson, he's young and he has great potential. So like with his youth, he has so many years ahead of him. Michael Thomas is a little bit older. He's not old by any means. He also costs a lot. So part of the compensation they'd be getting is us taking on the contract. So that's in their benefit. If it takes a first rounder, I don't know because we don't have like multiple anymore. If it takes a second, third, if it's a second, it's like you kind of start to look at that and be like CJ in a second, like why not? It'd just be weird at this point with what we have on the roster. Who's going to get, cut, traded besides, CJ now, because we have DJ Chark, Laviska, and Marvin Jones. It's pretty crowded if you add a Michael Thomas. So I feel like one of them would also have to get moved.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Luke, I said this to you earlier today. It just feels to me like Michael Thomas is one of those talents that he's not just like a top 15 receiver, right? Like he's viewed as a top 5 receiver. In any way you can get that type of player at any position, you're going to find a way to get him on the field, and maybe it suppresses the growth of a Laviska Shenault or a DJ Chark, and they don't get as many snaps, whatever the case may be. But it feels to me like if you can go out and get Michael Thomas, you get him on the field. Like there's players at every position that I'm sure these front offices circle and say, if we can get this guy no matter what it takes, let's go out and do it, and we'll get him on the field. Luke, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and you have to take into account basically the coaching staff. You've seen it already with Urban Meyer letting Tim Tebow have a chance. He loves those players that he's coached. Michael Thomas was at Ohio State. I think he would oversell and give away more than what would need to be to get Michael Thomas just because he likes having that connection.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Point.
I mean, he brought in Carlos Hyde.
He's bringing in people that he's coached before. He's done it with Carlos Hyde. He's done it with Tim Tebow. I can definitely see him doing it with Michael Thomas and trading away more than needs to be just so he can get his guy.
Would you guys here? I want to ask you guys this, just a hypothetical. Would you guys trade away, considering the situation on the offense? Would you guys trade away like DJ Chark and CJ Henderson for Michael Thomas straight up?
No.
That would be what I would think would almost have to happen in a way. Like I wouldn't necessarily want DJ Chark to go, but it's like it's very crowded to have all 4 of those guys. So it's like, do you then send one back? I really want to keep Laviska. I think paying for Marvin Jones to be here, and he's the veteran of the room, he also doesn't get moved. And then DJ ends up being the one I see most likely to be traded in something like that. Do I want him to get traded? Not necessarily. It's very weird for us not to be like super, oh yeah, let's get Michael Thomas. But it's like it's an interesting situation because he's coming off injury. He's showing some, disapproval with his team. But like again, we have Urban Meyer. He loves Urban Meyer most likely, so I don't see that being an issue. It'll just what does it take and how do the snaps pan out?
Yeah, and what about a potential CJ Henderson, James Robinson for Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
100%.
I'm kidding. Deal. Send it in, Jerome. Let's do
Well,
it.
here's the thing: is like we're here complaining that CJ Henderson doesn't want to play for us, and then we want to trade. You're suggesting trading away JJ Chark, who's shown like he loves Jacksonville. Like he's one of the guys that shows on social media and everything that he likes playing here. So that's the thing. I don't think we would want to trade that away. He's a great locker room guy for us, and he loves Jacksonville. So I want to keep that in our locker room at all costs.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, Luke, I feel that all the comments that Urban's made about DJ and you seeing him working with him after practice and stuff, I almost feel like Urban sees something, like sees the ceiling or the potential with DJ, and I think he's trying to really get that out of him. The reason he's showing him so much attention versus, Laviska or Marvin is because, he sees what they got going on. He knows they're going to be good. And then he sees DJ, and I think he's like, I'm going to squeeze out everything I can. Because when you have size and speed like you do, let's get you built up a little bit, and I think we can have like a really good receiver on our hands.
Yeah, and Sam, you mentioned having to go to CJ Henderson's house, get him out of bed. They had to get his cleats one day for him, tie his shoes. He's been a very high maintenance guy, high maintenance individual. Getting him out of bed kind of sounds like someone I know from college named Sam. Getting him out of bed, getting his shoes on.
We didn't cut you.
Night.
We didn't trade you away.
We didn't trade you, Sam. We kept you around.
Sometimes it just takes a little motivation. So it's all fingers crossed that's all CJ needs is a little energy drink and to get him out there.
If he offered to pay for his cover at happy hour, maybe he'll go.
Maybe he'll get it. Maybe he'll come play for us. We'll pay for his cover. Well, anyways, guys, anything else with the Jags NFL news before we jump into the wide receiver tight end talk, which we've kind of already teased out a little bit? Anything else?
I keep hearing Walker Little looks really good, and playing against now Smoot some snaps. Like he had some good plays against Smoot, who's a big guy. It's not little Caleb Chase on. So who knows if by the time we get to the season, there's a legit chance that he starts. Whether it's at left or right tackle, I don't know, but I can't imagine it'd be a surprise if he starts at this point.
And it's, for him, it's kind of nice to play tackle. There's two positions open on the field for tackle, so let's get him in there. And, if I haven't heard much of Jawan Taylor during training camp, which can be a good thing if he's playing well enough, but I've heard a lot of good things about Walker Little. I've seen on Twitter 72 greater than 71, alluding to Walker Little better than Tony Baselli, who we all know is a potential soon to be Hall of Famer. But if that is the case, I mean, that would be electric, having Walker Little come in off an injured year in college, being able to step in and be a solid, what was he, a third-round pick?
I believe.
Yeah, no, Cisco was third.
No, he was a second-round pick.
Walker Little was second?
I think he was the second-round pick.
Second-round pick. Okay, so the fourth pick in the draft.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say, I thought he was one of the picks that we got.
After Tyson.
Yeah.
Oh, he was one of them we got in a trade.
Yeah, so he was the second round pick.
See the Yannick pick?
It could have been the Yannick pick, actually.
He could
I
probably
was
block
thinking about it. And I was like, yo, imagine if we get like what was it? We get Chase on and who else? And ETN, and then we get Walker Little,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of great picks. I mean, that was a great first draft for Trent Baalke and Urban Meyer and co, at least if they have found 4 potential starters with those first 4 picks with Lawrence, ETN, Tyson Campbell, and Walker Little. And Andre Cisco, who looks like a thumper, who's just going to be a dominant player. We'll get to him in a few weeks when we talk about defensive backs, and I can't wait to do that. But let's get into this wide receiver discussion, guys. Jacob, you were at the scrimmage. The standout play that everyone saw on Twitter, everyone saw on social media, beautiful pass across the field, probably about 45, 50 yards on a button to Laquan Treadwell, someone that's just trying to make the roster. Some good reviews coming out about him. We've obviously heard great things about Marvin Jones. DJ Chark is bulking up. Laviska Shenault is like the strongest man on the field. I think he's been tackled like one time in his career. I mean, this receiving core has been a roller coaster over the last 5 years, and here we are again at the peak of the receiving core. Looks like we have a lot of great pieces.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think there's 3 guys, who knows if there's a Michael Thomas trade, but we won't consider that. There's 3 guys locked on this roster, and it's DJ, Marvin, and Laviska. Then I started to get towards okay, maybe Jamal Agnew. If you count him as a receiver and if that counts as the receiver count we keep, he's the returner. I think we paid him enough money that he's not going anywhere. So let's say we keep him and consider him as 4 out of like 6. Laquan Treadwell is the receiver of that amazing, beautiful ball by Trevor, and he's had a very good camp from what I've heard. So I imagine he makes the roster. I think we're starting to get into Colin Johnson, Jalen Camp. Jalen Camp's looked really good. Is the battle between them for making the roster and like the rest like kind of locked and loaded?
Yeah, so, that hits the nail on the head. If we keep 6, it comes down to Jalen Camp and Colin Johnson, as you just mentioned. And Colin Johnson was a receiver that we were extremely excited about coming out of Texas, thinking he'd be a red zone target. You know, he's like 6'5", 6'4", and then they have Philip Dorsett, who they gave a pretty nifty contract to recently to get him in here too. And he's a previous first-round pick as well. They go out and get Tavon Austin. So there's all these pieces flying around in the wide receiver room. It seems extremely cluttered. Luke, what are you thinking about this wide receiver situation that the Jags have?
Yeah, I like the 3 that Jacob said. I mean, those guys are pretty locked. Say Chart, Jones, Chenault in that order are probably our starting 3. And then after that, I like keeping Colin Johnson just simply for the fact that he's like 6'6". I mean, he's so tall. He can just sky over any of the normal standard size corners or safeties in the end zone. You just kind of throw one up to him, he can probably get it. So I like keeping Colin Johnson. And honestly, one of the most underrated free agent pickups is Marvin Jones in my Jaguars. So last year the Detroit Lions had 27 receiving touchdowns. Of those 27, Marvin Jones had 1/3 of those. So he had 9 touchdowns receiving the ball. So he still got it. You call him a veteran guy, but I still think he has enough to make a lot of plays for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's great to bring in a guy like that, a veteran with experience, in a wide receiver room who the second most experienced guy in that room could potentially be Laquan Treadwell, who looked for the most part as a first-round receiving bust when he got drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. And then after that, you have Chark in his 3rd year, you have Chenault in his 2nd year, and then you have Colin Johnson in his 2nd year too. So bringing in a guy like Marvin Jones not only solidifies some of that reliability at the receiving core on the field, kind of brings in some veteran experience to the locker room as well to kind of surround this young group of guys with. Sam, what about you? Thoughts on the receivers? You're muted, buddy. You're muted.
Yeah, I got the same 3 as you guys, but I also think Agnew is just a lock to make it. I mean, they really like what he can do in the return game and on special teams. So I think that those 4 are 100% a lock, and then you get into the Colin Johnson and Laquan Treadwell. I think that Philip Dorsett, I think the staff really likes him, and I think if he's healthy, then he's going to make the roster. I think that's why they brought in, Tavon Austin to kind of be that speed receiver on the outside. So I think that Philip Dorsett's, they really like him. I think he's a lock to make it if he's healthy as a speed guy. We're always looking for speed. But then you get Colin Johnson and Laquan Treadwell. And, I mean, so training camp day 9, Trevor was targeting Colin Johnson a lot. And it seems like that if they can keep that connection up, then Laquan Treadwell is probably on the outside being, an undrafted guy. And then you see Jalen Camp, probably a special teams player. You bring him on the active roster if someone goes down.
Yeah, and it sucks. I wish there was more opportunity to keep a lot of these guys, because while we have the top 3 kind of solidified, there is this feeling that the 5, 6, 7, 8 are very similar or very close to being on the active roster. And Laquan Treadwell has played himself into being on an active roster for an NFL team, whether that's for Jacksonville or for another team. We talked about it when we drafted Trevor Lawrence. The receiving core is looking great. How much of that is attributed to the fact that Trevor Lawrence is a really good quarterback and the receivers are looking outstanding with Trevor Lawrence at the helm versus Gardner Minshew, right? We talked about Gardner Minshew last episode. Jacob kind of brought up how, the velocity isn't there. Maybe the ball placement's not where you want it to be exactly. These receivers, are loving having Trevor Lawrence there because they know that they can trust if they run their route and do their job, the ball is going to be where they need it to be for them to make the play. We saw that with that catch by Laquan Treadwell the other day in the scrimmage. Jacob, overall, what were your thoughts on the scrimmage? Just a Sunday morning, overall thoughts on the scrimmage, the feel of it for those that might not have been there.
Well, I know a lot of fans were a little underwhelmed because it didn't feel like a legitimate scrimmage, which I didn't go in expecting it to be. It's a glorified practice in the stadium. I heard that the Saturday where they were in pads was actually much more exciting to see, but we just saw them, do different 11 on 11, 7 on 7s. Trevor, I didn't really catch it while I was there. I wasn't paying attention to did they finish the drive? But like one of the ones they did for 99 yards and he scored a touchdown. Like I remember them starting at the 1, but I didn't really pay attention. I was just more focused on each minute play. And that one play he had, Laquan Treadwell, was just very nice because it's the kind of ball that, in a game doesn't work. I don't know if the play sets up as nicely, but we just saw the arm that's capable of, showing up on Sundays for the Jags now. In regards to all these receivers, it's very tough because, Urban Meyer, like you said, he likes speed, but I see great things out of Jalen Camp. Like I see him fighting for, throws that are in triple coverage. And then you talk about Laquan Treadwell playing his way onto a roster spot. Colin Johnson, he's 6'6". Trevor Lawrence, he's 6'6". I say we keep him. And then that combination is Route 66. And we start calling that on Sundays whenever there's just a play, Route 66, we throw it up to Colin Johnson.
Route 66. Everyone just meet in the middle. The tallest
gonna
guy catch it.
If
I'll
Colin
do that.
Johnson makes the roster and that becomes a thing, I'm not going to get any credit for that. Some ESPN guy will, but
we'll make sure to credit you that. We'll get that clip on all social media all over the place. But like Sam mentioned earlier regarding CJ Henderson, this coaching staff has no indebted ties to any of these players except really for Marvin Jones or anyone they picked up off waivers like a Laquan Treadwell. So you have Colin Johnson. Was Jalen Camp in this draft?
Yep. So I would say Marvin, Jalen, Laquan Treadwell, and Jamal Agnew are their doing.
Yeah. So this current regime are more indebted to keeping someone like a Jalen Camp over a Colin Johnson or, Laquan Treadwell over Colin Johnson there, just based on they went after those guys specifically. Now, if they found something special in Colin Johnson, then great. Jamal Agnew makes the team as a return specialist. Personally, I think the NFL needs to bump the roster size up to 55. It's a nice round number. Add 2 spots for the returners. You shouldn't have one of your return specialists listed as a receiver on the roster when he's just there as a returner. That's just my opinion. That would open it up for a 6th receiver for us. Do you think there's any way we keep 7 receivers, or is 6 pretty much the magic number?
6 makes sense, but you never know. Urban Meyer is different.
We'll
does he count Jamal Agnew as the receiver, or does he just say a kick returner, put him on the team?
Yeah, because if you have Jamal Agnew on the roster as a wide receiver, then really you only have 5 receivers on the roster because you have him on there as the 6th, and he's really just returning kicks and punts and stuff. But hopefully we find enough out of these top 3 where these, last positional battles with, the 5th and 6th guy aren't necessary as far as every game, production goes. Hopefully they can come in and be nice complementary pieces. Before we get to talking about the tight ends, Pooch crew out there listening, those out there listening, go on to my Twitter, go on to Instagram. We are doing an extremely fun NFL Survivor League this year. It's a very simple process. It's online, all automated. $10 to enter. Venmo me, JPooch17. All you have to do is every week of the season, pick one team that you want to win, that you think is going to win. And if your team wins, you survive until the next week. If your team loses, you're out of the tournament. You can re-enter the first 2 weeks for an additional $10. You can only pick one team once throughout the year, though. You cannot pick the same team 17 times. You can't pick the Chiefs all 17 weeks and have them go 17-0. You got to be strategic. You got to pick the right teams at the right times, and you probably got to pick a few upsets at certain points. So go check that out on the Instagram and on Twitter, JPooch17, or Instagram at the Poogie Podcast to learn more about that. The links are all over my bios in all of those, so definitely go sign up for that. And DM me if you have any question. But guys, let's get into the tight end role, right? So we just talked about receivers. Will we keep 6? Will we keep 7? Chances are if we keep 7, that means we're really struggling at tight end and maybe only keep 3 or 2 or whatever the case is. I doubt 2 is the case. But when it comes down to the tight ends, we've talked about this all offseason, going into free agency, going into the draft. What are we doing at tight end, Sam?
What is it? Is if we keep 7 receivers, we can only keep like two tight ends? Is that it?
I mean, so yeah, theoretically, I
more
think the
nuanced.
combination is 9, maybe 10.
Okay. Okay. Total. Gotcha. Well, shoot. I mean, Chris Manhertz is going to make the team. James O'Shaughnessy. So I mean, it's between the rest of the guys. Luke Farrell is like Urban Meyer's like best friend's kid. So I mean, that's why he was drafted. Apparently, so
Coach's son.
Right, Luke Farrell makes the team.
Yeah, it's just like Tim Tebow. So I guess it's between those two who makes the second or the third spot.
Yeah, so
totally agree.
Yeah.
Jacob, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I want to say Manhertz for me is 100% making it. I see him primarily as, a blocking tight end. He can receive the ball, but he's not going to be a huge threat. I think James O'Shaughnessy is going to be a great pass catching tight end, but when he's on the field, it's going to be very obvious. So that third guy is probably going to be Luke Farrell in my eyes because they drafted him. I think he's kind of like a dual guy. They can see him blocking and catching. He's not like super great at either. Who knows? Maybe we get that random George Kittle that nobody found. But I really think it might stop there. It might be the 3 guys. I don't think Tebow makes the roster. I don't know if that's breaking news to anybody. But what I've seen in camp, what I've seen in he's not doing anything like out of the ordinary for someone running the routes and doing the drills. I don't think he's going to do enough to make the team. If he makes the team, Urban Meyer just signed off on it and said, it's done. But other than that, I just see if they keep 3, those are going to be the 3: Manhertz, O'Shaughnessy, and Farrell.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, at the scrimmage, I couldn't even keep track of who was who and what was going on. To answer Matt's question, Matt, the preseason game is on Saturday at 7 p.m. We're playing the Browns. It's going to be on NFL Network, actually. So preseason, 7 p.m. This Saturday, August 14th. Should be a fun game to watch, for fans at home, get a first chance to watch a lot of young players able to actually get on the field and play against actual opponents on the TIA Bank Field. Our only home preseason game. After this preseason game, next home game is going to be September 19th, I want to say, against the Broncos. So, yeah, no problem, Matt. But when it comes down to it, with the tight end room, all the guys look the same. I mean, even at the scrimmage. I don't know,
man. Look at pictures of Tim Tebow. His arm's the size of my leg.
Yeah, but he runs like a duck.
Yeah, but honestly, Tim Tebow, he's almost too muscular to even run. He's
Maybe.
The funniest so awkward. Thing, we were at the scrimmage, and Ellefson or whatever, maybe, I don't know, whoever's Elfson, 86. Yeah. He was running a route, and it looked pretty nice. It looked very smooth, and I was like, is that Tebow? And I was like, nah, that's way too clean to be Tebow. And I was right. As soon as he turned and we saw his 86, I was like, of course. Why would that be Tim Tebow? Because he runs like Tyreek Hill, but he's not fast. You know what I'm saying? So, and everyone was cheering for this 86 guy running routes, and then they turn and be like, oh, it's not Tebow.
It's not Tim Tebow.
Bro, he's like the inverse of CJ Henderson. Their arms are completely separate. If CJ Henderson had Tim Tebow's arms, then he'd be straight, but they're like string beans.
So, regarding the wide receivers we talked about and Michael Thomas potentially being a trade, what would be a more impactful trade in your guys' eyes? Michael Thomas or getting Zach Ertz?
Zach Ertz costs less.
Bro, I hate the Zach Ertz storyline. Can we the dude is on the wrong side of 30, and I get it. He's had, a ton of touchdowns the last,
I saw a report that says he's out playing Dallas Goedert right now in camp. Is that somebody on the inside putting that out so someone trades for him? Who knows? But I think Zach Ertz at half power is better than all of our tight ends combined full power. So I don't know what we're complaining about. If I could toss a 5th-round pick to Zach Ertz for this year and that's it, so be it.
To counter that, I'll say we did the same thing last year with Tyler Eifert. Same exact player.
Tyler Eifert was
Tyler Eifert. We're going to be the same thing about
Zach. He was injured almost every year. No.
If you want to go ahead and draft Zach Ertz in your fantasy league and pray to God that he returns to his, pre-2020 form, then go for it. But as far as on the Jags, I think that we're a new team. And we're not doing the Tyler Eifert thing again this year. We're not paying
That's what
someone.
we don't need. We don't need him to return to top 3 tight end status. If we could get, he could by himself catch like whatever many balls for 600 yards, and he outproduces the tight end room as a whole last year. And that's going to be a very good target for Trevor Lawrence amongst all the other ones we have. We don't have anyone that's a threat that any team would be like, all right, we got to keep our eye on this guy on this play. We have, ETN, we have James Robinson, we have some receivers, but at the tight end position, I bet 0 coaches this year will be like, oh, let's watch out for James O'Shaughnessy. Oh my God, man hurts. He's gonna block one really hard on.
Bro, you are always hating on my boy James O'Shaughnessy.
No, he's great. But
catch balls since he's been in Jacksonville. He got hurt last year.
I think he's underrated, but that doesn't mean he's like amazing.
Hey, James O'Shaughnessy, game-winning touchdown against the Bills in the wild card game 4 years ago.
Do we like James O'Shaughnessy because he's been the most productive tight end we've seen in some time?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
that's the reason we like him so much, because he's been the most productive one we've had
been
for
like
a
the
while.
only reliable, productive tight end we've had in forever. It's like the list of Jaguar tight ends: Kyle Brady, Mercedes Lewis, James O'Shaughnessy. It kills me. But in defense of Sam with the whole Zach Ertz, or in defense of Jacob with the whole Zach Ertz discussion, Jaguars go out and draft Luke Farrell with a 6th-round pick. Would you not rather get Zach Ertz for a 5th-round pick? Come on, let's be real. If you're going to get Luke Farrell with a 6th-round pick, why are you hesitant to go get Zach Ertz with a 5th-round pick? Yeah, he might be on the wrong side of 30. Yeah, he might not be at his previous form. But this team is so decimated at the tight end position. What harm is it going to do? It's the exact thing people were saying about bringing Tim Tebow in. It's not going to hurt anything. The position group is so bad, anything they try and do to fix it is going to look good.
Right. Yo, but does Zach Ertz know Urban Meyer like that? Because Luke Farrell is his best friend's son. So,
That's coach's son thing, man.
That's something that you just can't replicate, even with a 31-year-old pass-catching tight end. Yo, so I was going to say this with Colin Johnson. I mean, he could just be the F tight end on our team, right? I mean, you have Manhertz and Farrell in there to block. And then you got Colin Johnson to kind of just slide into where you want that F-type tight end to play. I think that
he's 222 pounds. I just Googled it. He will get destroyed by somebody.
Yeah, anytime that he's in, they know he's going to run a route. I mean, he's not going to block, so.
Yeah, so he's just a receiver that we're going to call a tight end. We can't block with him, so he's still a receiver.
Same with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, Darren Waller, these guys are all guys that aren't going to be blocking, in line. So
fair enough. If this was around the horn, I'd be giving you points for that one, Sam.
Ding, ding, ding.
Bing, 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 bing.
Well, Sam, you like James O'Shaughnessy. What if Zach Ertz came and he was the Marvin Jones of the tight end room, and he sculpted James O'Shaughnessy into a future Zach Ertz? What if that was his mentor, and then James O'Shaughnessy budded like the most beautiful tight end flower you've ever seen?
All right.
Bro, I like James O'Shaughnessy since we got him from the Patriots. I'm pretty sure
we've said his name right once in this thing.
O'Shag Hennessy.
O'Shag Hennessy.
All right. So I think what the real issue is this: we're neglecting to mention the fact that apparently the front office doesn't see tight end as a need at all, based on the moves that they've made all offseason. Like Hunter Henry was available, we didn't go after him. He goes to the Patriots. Who was the other guy that went to the Patriots? Jonnu Smith available. He goes to the Patriots. Now the Jaguars sit here with $30 million in cap space, the number one landing spot for a potential Michael Thomas trade, and we didn't even want to shell out $8 million a year to try and go get Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith, who tore up our team. Both of them have tore up the Jags defense in their time in the NFL, and the front office was too hesitant to go out and get one of those guys. They both end up in New England for the whole Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski dynamic there for Mac Jones. I just think it's ridiculous. We're talking about what we're doing at the tight end position. The closer we get to the season, I'm beginning to feel more so that this is what we got. Zach Ertz is not in the picture. That trade would have happened before training camp. Anything that would have happened to fortify the tight end room would have happened when there was 14 practices ahead of them, and now we're one 3 days away from a preseason game, and we're stuck with Chris Manhertz, James O'Shaughnessy, Luke Farrell, Ben Elfelson, and Tim Tebow, and Tyler Davis.
Can anyone name? I just thought of this. Can anyone name Trevor Lawrence's tight end in college? Who he threw? Maybe this is what we're overanalyzing. Maybe he just doesn't use tight ends. Maybe that's I can't even think about who his tight end would have been at Clemson. And maybe Urban Meyer's like, oh, they didn't really throw it to him much, so why do we need to have one?
I think this goes back to Urban Meyer just gonna want to run the ball. I think that we all think, Trevor Lawrence we're gonna throw it. I think that we're gonna go back to Ohio State, ground and pound, and play good defense. And I think that this is just one of those little things. Like, you don't need a freaking receiving tight end. You're just gonna get extra blockers for your running backs and for the quarterback to run the ball. That's just one more little piece that I think that
we're overlooking. Yeah. We're overlooking that part. Well, I want to ask you guys this for this season. Let's say this is the tight end room, right? We already kind of funneled it down into being Chris Manhertz and James O'Shaughnessy and potentially Elfelson or Tim Tebow, whoever it is. Jacob, who was the third guy that you said it's going to be?
Luke Farrell.
Luke Farrell. Okay, let's just say that's the case. To have a successful season, to have a successful week in, week out, Luke, let's start with you. What do we want the tight end numbers to be week in and week out as far as catches and receptions go? Maybe not for individual players, but for a successful season, realistically, what does it take as far as production from the tight end position?
I'd say we could have a combined 5-6 catches from them a game. That would be splendid. Get us 60 to 70 yards, maybe on a big down. They catch a ball that's over the middle of the field and he just out muscles the linebacker or something like that. We don't have the tight end room of Travis Kelce. We don't have the tight end room of Darren Waller. We don't have the tight end room of Kyle Pitts. We don't have those guys. So just make team plays. Please get a first down, maybe in the end zone. Just do your job, catch the ball, and get first down.
Don't bring back those memories of do your job. I don't want to hear that.
Do your job. Sam, what about you? Successful.
Wood if you're with me.
Yeah. Woo! Sam, what about you? What do you think? Successful season, what type of production do we need from tight ends?
Bruh, I think you guys are all starstruck at that 2017 season where Mercedes Lewis caught 3 touchdowns in one game. It's never going to happen for this team. We got blocking tight ends. All they did was go out and draft blocking tight end and Luke Farrell. We went out and bought the best blocking tight end in free agency. That's all we're going to do. We're just going to use these guys to block. And one of them's going to sneak out, like Chris Manhertz, who is at tight end U, by the way. He's going to sneak out and he's going to catch half a pass or half a touchdown a game or something like that. I think we're overestimating the amount that the tight end is going to be used for receiving in this offense.
Jags running triple option.
Are we overestimating the importance of the tight end for the Jags or just in general for the NFL? How important is the tight end position in the NFL? You have Travis Kelce, you have Darren Waller, you have Jonnu Smith, you have George Kittle. Those are the guys, right? And then after that, there's a big drop-off, and teams still find a way to be successful and maybe not have one of the best tight ends in the league. I think as NFL fans, as Jaguar fans, we're caught up in seeing the Rob Gronkowski go to Tampa and be successful and the Travis Kelce be successful in Kansas City. I think it's important to have a good tight end, but not every team is going to have these game-breaking, playmaking, momentum-swinging tight ends like those teams do. And I think for the most part, the tight end position is one of those positions where you just need someone with reliable hands to catch the 5-yard curl route, to get over the line of scrimmage, or to get over the first down marker, to get the touchdown. Just the guy who's not going to break the game open, but the guy that can get, the dump off passes like we've seen in the past, just to be there and be the receiver that's the safe option. I think that's what it kind of comes down to. None of these receivers, Sam, like you said, are going to be the breakout tight end of the season. No one's going to be getting these guys on FanDuel. No one's going to be getting these guys on DraftKings. No one's going to be getting these guys in their fantasy drafts. Jacob, go for it.
I was going to say on FanDuel, I wouldn't be James O'Shaughnessy might have a game or two where he does catch like a couple touchdowns, and it's like
and be worth like $20.
Yeah, so like you might want to toss him in right there. But the conversation we're having about tight ends is less about tight ends and more about football is a game of mismatches. And these great tight ends in the league are the most dominant mismatch in the NFL if you have one. We don't have one. So yes, I'm not going to set like a quota on passes to a tight end or yards. I want them to like move the chains for us if they can, but it's like ETN, he's probably going to be one of our main mismatches. Laviska might be one of our main mismatches because he's strong against like, defensive backs. A tight end can be very important only because they're a mismatch to the linebackers and DBs they're likely, lined up across from. If you have it, it makes it so much easier. If you don't, you got to figure it out in other ways.
Colin Johnson.
And yeah, honestly, it would be interesting to see maybe Colin Johnson line up in the like closer to the slot, or maybe as like an off tackle tight end, like maybe the second tight end on the side. I don't know. We'll see what happens. There's plenty of preseason games coming up to kind of see what happens. And who knows? Let's say the Jaguars have a great season. Let's say 6 or 7 wins, which I would classify as being a great season for this team coming off a 1-15 year. And let's say the offense looks good. Now we know going into the next offseason what our need is, what's going to change our team's dynamic, and it is getting that big tight end, getting that game-breaking tight end. So maybe it's one of those things where we take our medicine for 1 year, we know there's nothing we can do, who would have been, let's go get Hunter Henry, he gets injured, now we're pissed. Let's go get Johnny Smith Jr. for a big contract. I don't even know if he's a junior. I don't know why I keep saying junior, Smith Jr., I just keep saying that. But big contract for him, maybe doesn't pan out. We thought Julius Thomas was going to be the next big thing in Jacksonville. He didn't pan out to be anything. We thought Tyler Eifert was going to be the next big thing in Jacksonville. He didn't pan out to be anything either. So we've had bad luck with tight ends, unless they're named Mercedes Lewis or Kyle Brady, to be real. Anything else from you guys? Nothing from the squad. Sam, go for it.
Totally agree. It's just like, stop paying these guys. I mean, what did Tyler Eifert play like one game? We paid him like $6 million guaranteed or some bullshit. Yeah.
Well, let's be real. All that being said, if we went out and got Zach Ertz, I don't think any of us would be that upset, especially if it was a 5th-round pick, just to see what happens. Now, as necessary as it is, I think that's where it kind of comes into question. Is it necessary for us to go out and get him?
It may not pan out to be the most like amazing free agent acquisition or trade, I should say. But people know what Zach Ertz has done. If you have him lined up on a play, people are at least watching him, and that's taking away from your Laviska, your DJ Chark, your ETN. I don't want to say he'd be a decoy because I'd like to think he has some ability to still like be like better than what we have. But that name, people will look to him and draw away from. And like I think just when you talk about mismatches, it opens it up. I don't know if you guys had anything else, but I did have a quick question regarding the preseason game coming up. How much do you think Trevor Lawrence plays, and how much do you want him to play this preseason game?
Aren't there only 3 this year?
There are only 3.
3 preseason games.
It kind of like escalates how much time you're getting per game.
I mean, honestly, if it's anything that we've seen from these training camps and these scrimmages, it seems like every day at practice there's a new guy starting with the ones. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a 40% Minshew, 40% Trevor Lawrence, 20% Luton, or 20% Beathard, 15% Beathard, 5% Luton, whatever. I could see this being a very evenly split. And that's not to say that there's a battle between Minshew and Lawrence. I think that's more to say there's a want to get Lawrence off the field more frequently and not have him be on the field 60 to 70% of the time. So I'd say 40% snaps for Lawrence, 40% for Minshew, and see what happens from there.
I'm in the same boat. I kind of want to see almost that even split between Minshew and Trevor Lawrence. Don't want to be out there too long so he might get hurt, but also you definitely want to get him some game time reps against a different team.
Hey, here we go real quick. We got a comment from Josh. Josh, thanks for chiming in. This is a Sam defender. Stick with what we have unless there's a legit option. Ertz is washed in 5 years past his prime. I mean,
thank you. Jeez, some freaking smart people in the comments.
Are we talking about last year?
Josh Lynn, best ball player I've ever been around.
Yeah, there he is. Josh
Literally,
Lynn's
all right. So Zach Ertz last year, yeah, he was bad. But the year before that, he had 6 tutters and 900 yards. The year before that,
Wow,
8
better than our
tutters,
entire tight end
1,000.
room.
The year before that, 1,163 yards with 8 tutters. The year before that, 8 tutters, 824 yards. So it's had one bad year, and the Eagles were terrible last year. It's not like 5 years he's been so bad. Like 2 years ago, he's having 8 tutters.
That's like a 7 or 8 tutter kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have that. Jacksonville hasn't had that. I mean, Mercedes Lewis had 3 of those, and I don't think he had another one that entire 2017 season.
And that was a London game. Those don't even count for domestic touchdowns.
So, I mean, like, we're talking about him. He's had great seasons. Last season was terrible, and the Eagles were also terrible.
And I feel like the Eagles were maybe trying to get Dallas Goedert more in the mix, knowing that he's the future of the tight end room. It is also telling that the Eagles drafted Dallas Goedert where they did when they had Zach Ertz already, that they were kind of ready to move on from Zach Ertz potentially in the future. But then again, his contract coming up and all that stuff, they were probably looking to get rid of him anyway. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yo, all right. Straight up, CJ Henderson for Zach Ertz.
No, we can give a 5th.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get – I mean, I don't know. We'll see what we get for CJ Henderson.
Sam, what do you think? Going back to the question, though, how much do you want to see, or how much do you think Trevor Lawrence plays in this first game?
Oh, I see it. I think we're going to split it just completely 4-4-4. I think one guy's going to play the first quarter, one guy's going to play. I don't know if it's going to be Minshew or Lawrence first or second quarter, but then it's going to be third quarter Beathard and then fourth quarter Luton.
You know what? I'm going to side more with you because I honestly feel like 40%. I know you guys are thinking like splits. I don't really know if I want to see Trevor Lawrence play past the first quarter if playing the first. Like if he plays a few drives and they look pretty good and we move the ball, maybe we score, I think you take him back out. You're like, okay, we saw him play some live snaps, but let's not push our luck because Gardner Minshew's great, but we know who's starting week 1, whether we've said it or not. And we don't want to like push our luck with that. Let's get him some reps, 3 and out, put him back in. Let's see what we got. But I don't think he goes past the whole quarter, if that.
It's weird to me. Go for it, Luke.
I would say, like, what do you want to, like, on a drive count? So, like, the third drive, we've already scored 2 touchdowns. Do you think you take him out, or do you go for a 4th drive?
Yeah, if we've scored 2 touchdowns out of like 3 drives that he plays, I think he's done for the first game. I'd be fine with that. Yeah, if we have one less game, you think like, oh, the starters play deeper in these earlier ones. It's still the first game of live contact, another team wanting to destroy Trevor Lawrence. We don't need to like overdo it the first game. Maybe the second game he goes deeper than a normal second game, and the third he just doesn't play. But I think the first game, few drives, if it needs more work, we do it. If not, cut him. Don't cut him.
Don't cut him. No, we'll cut that. We'll cut that from the clip. We'll cut that from the clip.
You know what I mean.
All right, that's a good point. I mean, just keep him healthy. We know what we kind of got in him, and the fans would still love to see Minshew anyway, even if he's just like the number 1 preseason quarterback for us. That's, people still love that. They'll be showing up with mullets and, headbands and mustaches and Sam's aviators looking like Minshew. Here's a question for you. What would you rather see from week 1 in the preseason? 3 drives, 3 touchdowns, and 200 yards from Trevor Lawrence, or 4 drives, 75 yards, and 2 picks from Zach Wilson? Would you rather see Trevor Lawrence absolutely ball out or Zach Wilson absolutely plummet in the week 1 preseason game?
Bruh, don't be putting that evil, man. It's just going to come back at us. I feel like
agree.
Let's focus on the Jags. Let's focus on ourselves. Zach Wilson does suck, though, apparently. But
I feel like
don't put that evil on us, but he sucks.
I would rather see the first thing, and it's because we had the shot to pick our guy. We picked our guy. Now, if I was a Jets fan, I would hope for what you just said for Trevor. I hope he sucks, and I hope Zach. But we have no ill will towards Zach Wilson.
Oh, I do.
I mean, what? He didn't hurt us. We got Trevor. He's going to be our savior, hopefully.
Well, hey, here's what Josh had to say to you, Luke, about your Zach Ertz stats. He's an upgrade. I'm not dropping $10 million on a guy that's going to get 13 more catches than what we already have. So a little bit of efficiency per catch is what Josh is looking for. And then Josh asks us, best rookie year from the 3 rookie quarterbacks that are projected to start. I guess Trey Lance might not be in there, or Mac Jones, but Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, or Justin Fields. Who do we like? Let's go around.
I think that has to be Trevor. I mean, I don't like Zach Wilson at all, and Fields might not start until week 5 or something like that. So Trevor's going to probably start week 1 for us, and then he's going to play the entire year. And I think we're in a better spot than the Jets are. So I'm going to take Trevor.
Yeah. Sam?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I have to check, but I think Vegas has Trevor as like maybe the number 1 or number 2 guy to do Rookie of the Year. So I don't know. Fields is looking good though. I was kind of hating on him during the draft process, but I mean, I keep thinking about that 4.4 speed, and that's just adding to his game. I mean,
No, and I agree. I think Fields will
disgusting.
play, but I don't think he's starting week 1. I think Andy Dalton's starting for the first few weeks, and then they'll roll with Fields.
Yeah, I've heard that Andy Dalton has actually played pretty well, which then makes you think, okay, we're not going to force Justin to start. I want to say my answer is going to be Trevor. I mean, it's obvious we're biased here for the Jags, but I think he's really, really good and going to be set up well. But I really like Fields. I think he's got good things going in Chicago because he does still have A-Rob. He has a good defense, to help him out there. So I really like Fields. Zach Wilson, who knows? Because the Jets are, the Jets and the Jags have been similar for many years, and I don't see the same influx of talent and coaching like we have to hope for the best. Like Zach Wilson might be thrown to the Wolves. Who knows? He had a quick jump in his junior year, and that's what happens to quarterbacks like Blake Bortles. And, we love him, but look where that landed him.
Well, I was just about to say the whole Zach Wilson thing, it's kind of gives me, jitters and memories of like the Blaine Gabbert experiment here in Jacksonville, where it was a guy who made some plays in college, played well at Missouri. I'm pretty sure Missouri was still in the Big 12. So the conference at that point was just destined to score points. So he was going to look good. Chase Daniel looked good at Missouri too. Blaine Gabbert looked good at Missouri. He gets drafted. I think Zach Wilson had the benefit of, the BYU schedule, New Mexico State, Coastal Carolina, biggest game of the year, lost to Coastal Carolina for his biggest game. Justin Fields, he was the number 1 or 2 quarterback going into last year for college football. So he has the talent. Everyone saw the talent. And then he plays for Ohio State. He has some tough games. He gets roughed up by Indiana. I remember that was a difficult game for him. And all of a sudden, he gets dropped down to the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in the draft. And I feel like that was a bad rap for him. Luckily, the Bears got him still, and they got their guy. I think Justin Fields, that talent is there. We know that talent is there. I'd say kind of like the Andy Dalton thing that you mentioned. I say he doesn't start day 1. I think that could suppress some of his numbers. Maybe when you look at it on an average basis per game, maybe he's up there with Trevor Lawrence. But I think from the standpoint of Trevor Lawrence is the starter day 1. Trevor Lawrence is, who knows how good the defense is going to be. He might be playing catch up some games. I think the stats.
Do you guys really think that coaching staff that's on the chopping block is going to let Andy Dalton play 5 games before they put Fields in? I mean, I could see this as like either you start him right away or you put him in for look at the Texans with Deshaun Watson, where they put their guy in, and then like halfway through the first game, they're like, all right, Deshaun, like you're in now, obviously. So it's, I don't know. I mean, you got to talk about Trey Lance too. All the players on that team are apparently rallying around Trey Lance instead of Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's like, I mean, at some point, which is the better player? And obviously all these teams are going for playoffs. I mean, especially the Bears, who the coaching staff doesn't make the playoffs, they're probably gone. So it just doesn't make sense for me. You put it all on Fields, he's your guy, and he looks great in camp, and the team's rallying behind him. You put him in week 1, in my opinion. But
yeah. I've heard that Fields has had like on and off days though. Like some days he's been like he's the rookie. Days he has amazing throws, so it's like I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean every rookie's going to have that, but Sam, you're spot on. I mean, quarterbacks are drafted in the first round these days to start day 1, and that's kind of what is going to be expected. And if the Bears didn't have Andy Dalton, there's very few backups that would keep a first-round quarterback from starting. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick was one of them. But the fact that the Texans opted to start Tom Savage over Deshaun Watson week 1 in his rookie year was just an absolute mind fuck to me. It just did not make sense at all. I say go with Justin Fields. Let's see what Josh has to say. Remember, Fields throws an amazing deep ball, and he has Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson has the best season of his career this year, I predict. I think he's an unreal He's a real underdog for Rookie of the Year. Okay, I'll go back to listening. Great stuff, fellas. Appreciate it, Josh, for checking in. That's a good point. He's got a good receiver there in Allen Robinson. It'd be
Allen
great
Robinson
for the Jags to get
also
Michael Thomas.
has best quarterback he's ever had for Justin Fields. I mean, he's had
Exactly.
terrible quarterback play for the longest time. Fields is the best quarterback he's ever had.
Yeah, it's like what type of receiver could Allen Robinson had become if he had a great quarterback to go along with him? And sadly enough, Allen Robinson is still a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL right now, if not top 5.
Yeah, I think I've always thought great things of Allen Robinson, even when we shipped him away. And if Justin Fields plays early and often, I think we'll see Allen Robinson like rise up in people's ranks of being like a top 10 to top 5 guy, because I think he's capable. And now that he's got, Justin Fields thrown to him, because I see, unless Andy Dalton's winning you games, which I don't think will happen, Justin Fields is going to come in earlier than we think, like Sam has said. And Justin Fields, I think, is just going to, show off why he's a top quarterback. And the best reps are live reps. Practice reps are practice reps. But if you want a guy to improve, we saw Justin Herbert kill it last year. He wasn't supposed to start, but he did because of an injury. And I think Justin Fields will benefit from playing earlier rather than later.
And I think there's something strong to be said about where you played your college ball. And I think Justin Fields has that benefit of playing at Ohio State, playing some pretty good competition, albeit the Big Ten had a down year last year, but he played against very good competition, and he's not going to shy away from the bright lights either. That's the other big thing, is he's very comfortable in this position. I think he's going to be very comfortable stepping on the field week 1, and I think he's going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder from the whole Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, number 2 and 3 thing. I think Justin Fields is hungry. I think he's going to be eager to get out there and play day 1 for the Bears, and having Andy Dalton there could be that iron sharpening iron type thing that Justin Fields needs to kind of get over and get past. Like, a rookie stepping into training camp with some shitty backups, how motivated are they going to be to improve or play well when they know they have the starting job locked up? Justin Fields right there with Andy Dalton. Justin Fields feels and knows that he has to go out and earn the starting job. He's not being given the starting job. So we'll see kind of where that goes. But anything else from you guys before we call it a night?
No, I think we're good.
I think we're all good.
Ready for Saturday.
Right.
Yeah, one thing, apparently Allen Robinson is looking disgusting in camp with just his route running. Apparently this season he put a real big emphasis on it on the offseason. So, I mean, Joshua might be right with the 100%. Whole best season for Allen Robinson. That could be interesting. That's for sure.
I think
And a
Josh
potential
is
rookie
right,
of the year.
and he becomes a top 5 receiver this year if Justin Fields is playing.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But Pooch Crew, thanks for being here wherever you are watching. If you're live on YouTube or Facebook, thank you for being here. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, subscribe to the page, like our page. That way you're here for every single episode of the Poogie Podcast and 90407 Sports, whether it's UCF or Jacksonville Jaguar coverage. Would love to have you here commenting like Josh did, as well as Matt. Thank you both for commenting and giving us some topics to talk about. Please continue to comment and like this video wherever you may be. If you're on the go, listen on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. We are on the go. If you're at the gym, if you're at work, if you're sleeping, you want to just lay in bed and listen to some great Jaguar talk, you're welcome to do that as well. I do that myself.
There's not a lot of it.
What's up, Jacob?
There's not a lot of it. So if you guys want Jaguar content, come see us.
Come see us. We're the Proud Boys. We'll be here. We got you. The Jaguar boys are here to give you that Jaguar content you're constantly looking for. And it is August 9th, August 10th maybe. You'll listen
10th.
on August 11th. And we're days away from preseason week 1. We cannot wait. I'm excited. But until next time, Pooch Crew, thank you for being here. Go enjoy some preseason week 1 football. Go enjoy maybe some baseball as well. But most importantly, as I always say, go and make this world a better place. Until next time, take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?